Over $1 million raised by a local nonprofit, and they aren't slowing down. See how it's going to help students reach their goals. And a new program provides support for struggling students during high-stress times, how Aggies can get mental health help from a new app. Your Krhd News starts right now.
Connecting the Brazos Valley, this is Krhd News.
Happy Wednesday and thanks for joining us. I'm Hallie Jones. Over $1.2 million has gone to Latinos in the Brazos Valley from the Hispanic Forum, and the nonprofit says there's still much work to be done helping students reach their goals in higher education. Krhd News reporter Brittany DeFran shares the impact it's making in the community.
The Hispanic Forum says it's in the dreams business, helping Latino students have a path toward getting a college degree. The scholarship application began as an assignment for Mark Romero, but it quickly turned into so much more.
I never really thought too much of it, when in reality, it basically changed my entire college experience. And that was honestly one of the best decisions I've made in my senior year.
The Hispanic Forum has helped Latinos for years, but now they are committed to assisting all underserved communities in the Brazos Valley.
Not just Hispanics struggling, it's everyone struggling. We're all affected by this pandemic, but if we all come together and work hard, we can help these students achieve their goals.
And bringing the community together to accomplish this goal.
We can come together, and help them out even better. They need us to believe in them and in their future.
Romero hopes to one day help others in the community receive the same life-changing opportunity he has experienced.
I need to be a good role model for my sister. And so with my mom and my dad being good role models for me, I want to be that for my sister.
If you believe in your academic excellence, this year's application process has officially opened. The deadline, March 31st. And Brittany DeFran, Krhd News.
Texas A&M has been designated as a Hispanic serving institution from the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities. The HACU awards the designation for institutions where Hispanic enrollment makes up a minimum 25% of total undergraduate students. A&M met this requirement in fall of 2020 and again in fall 2021. Students at Texas A&M University will now have 24/7 access to counseling and psychological services thanks to a free downloadable app. Through a new partnership, My Student Support Program, mental health resources are now available online in addition to the school's Counseling and Psychological Service Center. Students utilizing the app can connect with licensed psychologists and counselors and schedule private phone calls and video appointments to help them. The My SSP app will also ease the demand placed on the A&M CAPS department when it sees high usage during periods such as midterms and finals weeks.
Right around midterms, it's not easy to get an appointment with us. We have a long wait. We try to get students in as quick as we can, but the more students that want our services, the shorter then the treatment can be for those students. And so this is a way that we can do high quality care and increase our accessibility for counseling in general.
Students can now download the My SSP app on the App Store or Google Play. Sex trafficking, especially child sex trafficking, is a crime so horrific many of us have a hard time understanding it could happen in our communities. But the numbers tell a different story. Krhd News reporter Rebecca Fiedler shows us a new law enforcement program to keep our kids safe.
Within Brazos County, the youngest victim served by local advocacy nonprofit Unbound was only 12 years old. Unfortunately, where there's a demand for human trafficking, there will be some supply. Entities throughout Brazos County have come together to say we need a strategy to stop this.
Just 2 years ago, several law enforcement agencies and nonprofits within Brazos County were working alongside the Office of the Governor, trying to come up with action plans for responding to a child sex trafficking incident. This month, protocols have been written up and finalized. These protocols are important because child sex trafficking isn't as cut and dry and easy to identify as it is in TV crime dramas.
Most, if not all, of the clients that we work with have a very close relationship with the person who's been exploiting them, whether it's a family member, somebody they're in a very close relationship with, or even a dating relationship.
Unbound of Bryan College Station has assisted a total of 54 people identified as victims of human trafficking in Aggieland. A number of these victims were juveniles. Law enforcement says our area's proximity to Houston, a major trafficking hub, is compounded by the frequency of large events hosted in Bryan and College Station.
This new child sex trafficking task force is comprised of groups like Unbound and Baylor Scott and White, Scotty's House, and nearly all local law enforcement departments. Reporting in Bryan, Rebecca Fiedler, KRHD News.
Experts say just because young people are good with digital devices doesn't mean they're good at making sense of the information coming from them. A lot of work still needs to be done to make sure they have the skills to be responsible information consumers. This week, we've teamed up with the News Literacy Project to shine a light on better information consumption and sharing. All week, we take a look at different elements of how Americans consume news and how we, as the media, can do better. Today, we take a look at just how difficult it can be for young people to separate fact from fiction.
Researchers at the Stanford History Education Group completed a national survey of more than 3,000 American high schoolers looking at how they evaluate real sources online.
It's the largest study to date of its kind.
Joel Breakstone heads the Stanford group and has been studying news literacy among high schoolers for the past 6 years. He says they found that students struggle to make even basic evaluations about the validity of online information.
Students had trouble. For instance, when we presented students with a website that denied humans' role in global warming.
CO2 emissions and fossil fuel use have actually enhanced life.
Breakstone says 96% of the students could not identify that the website actually had connections to the fossil fuel industry. Information that he says was immediately available through simple online searches.
Similarly, when we showed them a Facebook video claiming to show voter fraud during the 2016 presidential Democratic primaries, they overwhelmingly took it at face value. Again,
a quick Google search, he says, would have led them to a whole series of articles debunking the video, including one from the BBC indicating the video that was viewed more than 1 million times was actually about voter fraud in Russia and had nothing to do with fraud in the U.S.
Out of more than 3,000 students, only 3, less than 0.1%, made that connection to the Russian source for the videos.
Researchers also compared how Stanford freshmen, young people in Silicon Valley, and history professors stacked up against fact-checkers from some of the nation's leading news organizations, and found striking differences in how well they evaluated unfamiliar websites.
The fact-checkers were way better than the Stanford students or the historians, and the reason was that they didn't stay on an unfamiliar website.
One of those websites was minimumwage.com.
And most of the students and many of the historians took that website at face value.
The site says it's a project of the Employment Policies Institute and is a nonpartisan nonprofit organization.
All of the fact checkers left the website and quickly discovered that the institute is actually run by a PR firm that is working for the food and beverage industry and has a vested interest in employment issues, and particularly minimum wage.
While Breakstone isn't saying everyone must become a professional fact checker, he does say that critical thinking and cross-referencing are key to being better informed.
We think in our current digital age, being able to find good information online is a critical component of being a participating member in our democracy.
One tip, he says, just because a website ends in .edu or .org doesn't necessarily mean it's trustworthy. I'm Usher Qureshi reporting.
Over the course of the pandemic, millions of Americans have unexpectedly found themselves out of work. Some by choice, others because their job was eliminated or they had to take care of a loved one. Chris Conti shows us how some have successfully rebounded. And we check in with one and ask that simple question: how are you doing?
Like the tides along the shore here, the pandemic has created its share of ups and downs these last few years.
I had not worked for almost 10 years in a corporate environment, and technology has really moved quickly in the past 10 years.
That is Leslie Schwimmer. We first met her last year when things weren't going so great.
Everything I put into that, I never thought it was an option not to succeed.
When the pandemic hit South Florida, this small business owner was forced into bankruptcy, having to close down the massage business she'd been running.
Do you think your age is the biggest thing that's keeping you from getting a job right now?
I think so. I tried to mask my age as much as I can.
At 58 years old, Leslie was convinced she'd aged out of the job market. But listen to her now.
I kind of feel like I'm in the perfect place and everything just worked out the way it was meant to be.
After an exhaustive search, Leslie landed on her feet. She's now selling medical devices for a small company based in Florida.
I really am happy. I love the day-to-day of what I do.
While she misses running her own business, she does not miss the stress that came along with it.
I really enjoy getting a check every 2 weeks and not worrying about paying everybody else.
As for the 2 million or so long-term unemployed Americans still looking for a new job, Leslie says don't give up.
When I look at the jobs that I didn't get, that I have to admit I cried over and said, I just don't understand. I was perfectly qualified. I know I was a good candidate. And when I analyze them now, as opposed to where I am, I think that, again, I'm where I should be.
For Leslie, being asked, how are you doing, is something she really enjoys answering now.
I loved what I did before, but I really like this new challenge, and I hope that I do it for many, many, many years.
Amid all the ups and downs of this pandemic, some good news off the horizon. I'm Chris Conti.
Unlike yesterday, today brought a lot of sunshine to the area, and we will continue to see mostly clear skies through the evening hours, but some clouds will be moving in as we head through the overnight, and things not looking too bad for the rest of the week. We'll probably still be a little bit below normal, though. There are some clouds just down to the southwest, and you can see a few of those creeping in around the Caldwell area, back into southern parts of Milam County as well. But we will see just a couple of these from time to time as a storm system is passing off to our north. And look at this. There's snow that did dump quite a bit of snow from Amarillo and through the Lubbock area, freezing drizzle, and that snow continues into southwest Oklahoma and along the Red River. It's going to be way too far north to have any impacts here, and that one will not do anything for us. Again, we may see a few clouds from time to time during the overnight hours, but that should be about it. Then as we get into the afternoon, partly to mostly cloudy skies, temperatures could be slightly warmer than today, but still on the cool side. And Friday, maybe a couple of isolated showers before sunrise. And as we make our way through Friday afternoon, we're looking at a lot of sunshine here across the area. So tonight, temperatures falling down into the 30s, right around freezing in Centerville, 33 in Franklin, 37 though in Bryan College Station, down toward Caldwell and Somerville at 37. Then tomorrow, highs will be in the upper 50s and lower 60s. So a touch warmer than today, but still just a slight touch below normal. And that will continue probably through Friday as well, as temperatures may come down just a hair from 60 down to 53, 20% chance of an early morning shower on Friday. Sunshine coming out though, that's going to lead us to a nice weekend. Highs in the 60s, lows in the 30s and 40s. Decent shot of some rain now coming in on Monday. That's some good news for us, and we may have another chance of some moisture as well as we head toward the middle part of next week. So some rain chances in the forecast.
Refunds are coming for customers of an online loan company with shady practices. The Federal Trade Commission sued Avant for a number of issues that include falsely advertising it would accept debit and credit cards for payments, charging customers additional interest, withdrawing money from customers' accounts without authorization, giving deceptive payoff quotes, and trying to collect more than what was owed. As part of the settlement, more than 17,000 customers will get checks averaging a little more than $200 each. Some days it can feel like we're all part of a giant rat race. But there's one place where the rat race is actually part of everyday life, literally. Maya Rodriguez introduces us to a group of scientists training rats to drive and how it could have huge implications for your loved one's health.
What we're looking at here is a coronal section.
Inside this lab, all that matters is brain matter.
We're interested in neuroplasticity, how the brain changes throughout our lives.
Dr. Kelly Lambert is a professor of behavioral science at the University of Richmond in Virginia. She studies brains for a living. Several years ago, she was presented with a question.
That one we won't need for now, but we can.
Can you teach a rat to drive? Yes, a rat.
And in the beginning, I thought, well, I'm not sure that I'm interested in that. I'm interested in natural behavior, and I haven't seen rats out in the wild driving cars.
But then she started thinking about it.
We drive cars. We've learned this skill, and our ancestors weren't driving these cars. Once you start thinking about a rat driving a car, you can't not think about a rat driving a car.
And that is how a literal rat race came to life.
All right. That's it? Yeah. There you go.
These rats in these tiny cars are now trained to drive. Why would a rat want to do that?
So the currency in our lab is Fruit Loop cereal.
With a treat waiting at the other end of the racetrack, several years ago, researchers began training the rats how to drive backwards and forwards using tiny pedals.
It's a very gradual process. You get in the car and you get a piece of a Fruit Loop. You approach where the steering mechanism is and you get a Fruit Loop.
Now they've added a twist: power steering.
They're quite adaptive, smart animals. So we start requiring more and more of these animals. So eventually they know I have to get in the car, activate the driving mechanism, and drive to the target, and then I will get my Fruit Loop.
I'm in here a few times a week at least.
Student Erin Burns works with the rats in the lab.
I think what I like best about working with the rats is their individual temperaments.
Besides the obvious, I mean, who doesn't like watching a rat drive? There's a true scientific purpose behind getting these motors running.
Rats are mammals like we're mammals, and their brains are much smaller, but they have all the same parts in general that we have as humans.
And studying how these rats learn to drive and how it affects their brains comes with real-world applications.
It gives us an opportunity to see how that brain changes. There's strong evidence that when humans have a neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer's disease, if you have more connections, a more complex brain, it provides a buffer.
Which could slow down the disease, creating the potential for new findings as these small drivers accelerate into new territory. In Richmond, Virginia, I'm Maya Rodriguez.
There you go.
There's been growing focus around how extra cash each month with no strings attached could help certain Americans. One of the latest universal basic incomes programs focuses specifically on new moms. Those living in low-income neighborhoods of New York City are receiving between $500 to $1,000 a month for 3 years. The advanced child tax credit is another thing during the pandemic that made a big impact for families. We've heard from families about how the up to $300 a month per child helped them provide for their kids in ways they may not have been able to otherwise. But new research also shows the impact cash support like this may have on a child's development as well. It could underscore how sensitive children are to their environments early in childhood.
Generally, we can think about how cash might help stabilize or support children in their home environments and things like paying bills to keep the lights on or buying cleaning products. But we can also look to see how cash may be used for child-specific items like diapers or car seats or a crib.
The baby's first year study included 1,000 low-income moms shortly after they gave birth. Some were given a little more than $300 a month, while the rest received $20 a month. After a year of receiving that money to use how they chose, the babies and the families who received more money had faster activity in key areas of their brain, showing stronger cognitive development.
Because we were able to randomize families between these two groups, the only thing that should be different is this cash gift. And so that is how we're able to say we think the cash gift is what is impacting these brain measurements.
The researchers tested the infants' brains using special caps that record the brain's electrical activity. The study will continue to look more into how families are specifically using the cash. They'll also be following up with the kids again this summer around their 4th birthday to track their cognitive development.
World News Tonight is just ahead, and we're back in 30 minutes for KRHD News at 6. Until then, have a great evening.